Restaurant season is presented to you by Happy Chef, the reservation system you own. Create a free unlimited account on happychef.cloud.
Every exceptional restaurant has a story, but behind the dining room, the dishes and the reviews are hundreds of decisions about money, people, design, ambition, and survival. Restaurant season tells those stories, one chapter at a time. This season, opening a restaurant. Let's begin.
Episode 7, Full. The next day, Luna was fully booked again. By the end of the week, that stopped feeling unusual. The phone began ringing before the reservations line officially opened. Messages arrived overnight, guests asked to be called if anything became available, and people who had eaten at Luna once were already trying to come back. From the dining room, the opening looked successful. Emma had imagined this part for years. The room full, the bar occupied, conversations settling into the evening, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing people had chosen to be there. Now they had. On the 8th night, a guest stopped Emma near the door and told her they had been trying to get a table for 4 days. Emma apologized, the guest smiled, and said it as a compliment. 2 mornings later, a review appeared. It was not from the largest newspaper in the city, but it was from someone people in restaurants read. The review liked the room, the service, and the fact that Luna seemed confident without being formal. It praised Luca's turbot. The dish had been on the menu from the first rehearsal: roasted turbot with smoked mussel butter, braised leek, and a potato preparation that required far more attention than its place on the plate suggested. The reviewer called it the dish they would return for. By lunch, the line had been repeated online. By 4, the next 2 Fridays were full. Luca sent Emma a screenshot of the review with no message. Emma replied with one word: beautiful. That night, 12 tables ordered the turbot. The next night, 14 did. Luca was pleased. So was Emma. For the first time since construction began, something Luna had worked hard to make difficult was being rewarded for being difficult. Guests noticed. They cared. The restaurant was becoming known for something. Outside Luna, the story was simple. The restaurant had opened, people liked it, and getting a reservation was becoming difficult. Inside, the story had more parts. The kitchen team was arriving earlier. At first, it was 20 minutes, then 40. One commis began coming in before the time written on the rota because the leek preparation had not been finished the night before. The sous chef stayed after service to portion fish for the following day. Nobody asked Emma for permission. They were solving the problem. The overtime sheet solved it differently. Sophia put the first full week of hours on Emma's desk. Emma glanced at the total and asked whether opening week was included. Sophia said yes. Emma nodded. Opening week was always heavy. Sophia said the second week was heavier. Emma looked again. The front of house team had overtime too, but the kitchen number was larger. Emma asked Luca about it before service. He said they were still finding rhythm. She asked how long that would take. Luca said less time if people stopped asking him every day when it would take less time. Emma almost laughed. He did not. At 5:30, the first staff meal was still being cleared when the kitchen began final service prep. Emma watched one cook eat standing up and made a note to speak to Sophia about breaks. Then a delivery arrived late, a guest called about an allergy, and a wine order was missing 2 cases. The note stayed in Emma's pocket. That Wednesday, Luna served 36 covers. Friday served 44, and Saturday served 44 again, with a waiting list. The weekend felt better, not only busier, easier to understand. Every table was occupied, every station had a reason to be moving, and every empty chair became temporary. Wednesday was different. The restaurant was still busy, but the same team had been there, the same prep had been done, the same refrigeration was running, and almost the same number of hours had been worked. Emma did not think much about that at the time. She was watching the weekend. At the end of the second week, one of the servers dropped a tray of glasses near the bar. The room went quiet for half a second, then service continued. Afterwards, Sophia counted the breakage. It was more than she expected. Emma said they would replace it. Sophia said she knew. The next afternoon, Sophia asked if they could move the weekly management meeting. Emma thought she meant to another day. Sophia meant that they should actually have it. They had postponed the first one because of the opening, the second because a supplier had been late, and the third had been shortened to 12 minutes because Emma was needed on the floor. Sophia wanted an hour with Emma and Luca before service. Emma looked toward the reservation screen. 42 covers. She said tomorrow would be better. Sophia asked if tomorrow was quieter. Emma said no. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then the kitchen door opened and someone called Emma's name. She went. The following Monday, Emma met Mireille and Danielle at Luna. The restaurant was closed to guests, which should have made it quiet, but the kitchen team was already inside. Prep had started before noon. Mireille had brought the first operating cash report. Emma sat at the bar with a coffee and expected the conversation to feel different from the pre-opening meetings. There was revenue now, real revenue. Card payments landed in the account almost every day, the reservation book was strong, and the restaurant had exceeded the first 2 weeks of sales in the original forecast. Emma said that before Mireille did. Mireille said yes. Then she turned the page. Cash was still falling. Emma looked at the number, then at Mireille. She asked how. Mireille pointed to payroll. It was above plan. Then overtime, also above plan. Purchasing, above plan. There were still construction invoices being settled, professional fees arriving after opening, deposits becoming final payments, and supplier accounts that had started becoming due. Emma said those were opening costs. Mireille said some of them were. Daniel asked which ones were not. Mireille moved her finger back to payroll and purchasing. Emma looked toward the kitchen. She could hear a blender running behind the door. She said revenue was also above plan. Mireille agreed. Emma waited. Mireille did not complete the thought for her. Daniel asked whether Luna was making money on a full night. Emma looked at him. He rephrased it. If every table was occupied, were they actually producing the result the model assumed? Emma said they had been open for 2 weeks. Daniel said he knew. His tone was not impatient. That made the question harder. Mireille showed them Friday revenue was strong, then Saturday stronger. Then Wednesday. The restaurant had not been empty on Wednesday. It had simply carried nearly the same machine for fewer guests. Emma saw the difference. She asked whether the answer was more covers midweek. Mireille said, maybe. Daniel asked whether they could serve more covers without adding more labor. Emma did not answer. The kitchen door opened and Luca came out carrying a container. He saw the 3 of them at the bar and asked whether he should be worried. Emma said no. Mireille said they were looking at the first 2 weeks. Luca nodded and put the container into the bar refrigerator. Emma asked him how much earlier the kitchen was coming in now. He said it depended on the day. She asked about the turbot. Luca looked at her differently. He said, "What about it?" Emma said nothing yet. She was trying to understand the hours. Luca said the review had changed the mix. Before the review, they had prepared for 8 or 10 portions. Now they needed 14, sometimes 16. The fish arrived whole, yield changed slightly from delivery to delivery, the sauce required its own reduction, the mussels were prepared separately, the leeks took oven space before service, and the potato component had to be finished close enough to service that it could not simply be moved to the previous day. Emma asked whether they could prep more efficiently. Luca said yes. Then he added, not infinitely. Mireille was listening. She asked how many portions they had sold on Saturday. Luca told her. She wrote the number down. He asked why. Mireille said, because I want to know. Luca went back into the kitchen. Emma watched the door close. That afternoon, she walked through the restaurant before service. The room looked better than it had on opening night. The team had learned where to stand, the host no longer hesitated with the reservation system, servers reset tables without speaking, and the kitchen sent plates more consistently. The restaurant was improving. That was true. At 6:30, the first tables arrived. At 7:15, every seat was occupied. At 8, Emma watched a plate of turbot leave the pass, then another, then 3 together. The dish was beautiful. She understood why people talked about it. She also saw Luca call for an extra pan, a commis cross behind him with a tray of leeks, and the sous chef moved 2 plates to make space. For perhaps 10 seconds, the pass tightened around one dish, then it released. No guest saw it. Emma might not have seen it 2 weeks earlier. Near the end of service, a table asked Emma whether the turbot would still be on the menu next month. She said she hoped so. The guest said it was the reason they had booked. Emma thanked them. In the kitchen, Luca was scraping the last portion of sauce from a small container. The next morning, Emma emailed Mireille. She asked for the numbers again, but this time she wanted them differently. Not just by week, by service, and by menu item where possible. She wanted food cost, labor, waste, average spend, and what people were actually choosing together. Mireille replied that some of it would be approximate. Emma said approximate was fine. 2 days later, they met before service. Mireille had rebuilt the view. The first thing it showed was that Luna did not have one problem. Weekend revenue was strong, midweek revenue was weaker, overtime was spread across both, and some of the expensive prep happened whether 44 guests came or 36. Wine was performing better than expected. Breakage was not. One menu combination was being chosen far more often than the original model assumed. Emma asked which one. Mireille turned the laptop toward her. Guests who ordered the turbot were disproportionately choosing the lighter starter before it. They were also less likely to add the supplemental course Luca had expected to lift the average spend. That mattered, but it was not the largest thing. The fish itself was not simply expensive. Its preparation touched too many other costs. Higher than planned demand meant more whole fish purchased, more trim, more variable yield, more early prep, more sauce production, and more labor concentrated around the same section of the kitchen. On the busiest nights, it also slowed the point in service, where several tables tended to arrive together. Nothing on the report said the dish was losing money every time it sold. That would have been easier. The report said something less convenient. The dish people loved most was helping make the restaurant more expensive to operate. Emma read the page twice. Then she asked Mireille which item was contributing most to the difference between the menu they had modeled and the restaurant they were actually running. Mireille pointed to one line. The turbot. From the kitchen, Emma could hear Luca explaining the dish to a new commis. He was telling them why every part of it mattered.